Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to make this very awesome men's beanie. This beanie, of course, this pattern can be used to make beanies for women as well, but you know, I'm a dude, so I like to always kind of cater to crochet objects for men, even though I really don't. So anyway, in today's video we're going to be using the V-stitch, and that is what is giving this beanie that very awesome pattern. Now you might remember back when we learned the Moroccan stitch in that video, that was where we first encountered the V-stitch. Remember those V's there? Right there, and so on. Okay, so we're going to use that V-stitch in this pattern to make up this beanie. So if you are ready to make this man's or woman's crochet beanie, then stay tuned. Things you will need include, for today I'm using 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, a darning, weaving, tapestry needle, pair of scissors, and just one skein of yarn. This is Karen Simply Soft by Yarnspirations, and interestingly enough, it is called Jersey Shore. I did not know that. I just saw the colorway and loved it. So, alright, let's get to this beanie. Alrighty, so when I was constructing this pattern, I was gonna start out with a slip knot and do the normal chain 4, but I was like, no, you know what, let's change it up a bit. Let's do the magic circle, the magic ring is another name it goes by, since I don't do that as often as I do the slip knot chain combo. So if you've never done the magic circle, magic ring, I have a video showing you how to do that if you need more instruction after what I'm about to show you now. But basically this is how it goes. So you have your yarn, you have your tail, bring your tail forward, like on that side of your hand, the inside of your hand, and you wrap from behind like that, and it makes an X. Now you put your thumb on the X, and you wrap like that, okay? Now you go under this first loop and then over that loose one that's going back to the skein of yarn, hook it and pull it through like that. So you have a loop. Now you take these two fingers, grab there while you pull those two fingers out. And now you take the yarn that's coming from the skein and you quickly chain 1 just to secure it, okay? So now we've created the magic ring and we've chained 1 to secure it, but for this round, to get up to the height of the stitch, we want to chain 3, okay? So I've chained 1, let's chain 2 more times, 2 and 3. Alright, and now I am going to put a double crochet into the magic ring. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the magic ring or magic circle, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2, and then yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so believe it or not, you guys, this is the first V-stitch. It may not look like it because all you see really is 3 chains and then a double crochet right next to it. But if you think about the fact that usually you can chain 2 for double crochets, so imagine the chain, the first and second chain, that's technically the height of the double crochet. That's what is commonly equivalent to a double crochet, 2 chains, and then you have that extra chain, so that's the chain 1 spacing, and then you have the next stitch, which is the double crochet. Then technically that's your first V, okay? So remember that pattern: double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That's how you create a V. So now we're going to repeat this 5 more times in this magic circle for a total of 14 stitches. Okay, so I just created my first V. I'm about to start my next V. I'm not going to chain one. Okay, the chain one only happens when you're in the center of the V, when you're making the V. Okay, so I'm not chaining one. I'm just going to yarn over in preparation for that next double crochet. I go back into the magic circle, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now chain 1. Okay, and I'm keeping an eye on this tail because as I continue to crochet around the magic ring, aka magic circle, it's going to try to come out. Okay, so once I see that this tail is getting dangerously close to coming out, I'm just gonna close up the circle a little bit by pulling on it. All right, so anyway, getting back to this next V, the second V that we're making, we did the double crochet, we chained 1. Now to complete the V, we make another double crochet, right? So yarn over, go into the magic ring, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2, yarn over, go through 2, 1, 2. All right, and that is our second V. All right, so here's the first V, where you have the first and second chain to get us to the height of the double crochet, and then the third chain is that chain in between, and then the double crochet. So that's the first V right there, and then we did not chain in between the two V's, and then here's our second V, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Let's make our third V. So double crochet, notice I did not chain first, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now I chain. Let me make sure my yarn doesn't split on me. Okay, now I chain and I go back in there, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. So now we have 3 V's. 1, 2, and then this is the third one. Let's make one more. Yarn over, go into the magic circle, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now chain 1, yarn over, go back into the magic ring, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so just keep making V's until you get a total of 14 stitches, including this initial chain 3 at the beginning, and I will meet you there. So now I have all 14 stitches made, and you see how that tail is getting closer and closer to that circle, and it's gonna want to come out. Well, I'm not gonna allow that to happen, so if that starts to happen to you, grab on the tail and just pull, and that will bring the stitches together and close up the hole. I'm not gonna close it all the way, just like that to that point. And that's the magic of the magic circle, you guys, just in case you were wondering why it had that name. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the top chain of that chain 3. So that third chain up, 1, 1, 2, 3, in there. And I like to get 2 pieces when I go through a chain. So yarn over and just go all the way through, like that. Now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So remember, the first 2 stitches is to get us to the height of the double crochet, and then that third chain is technically that in-between chain between the 2 stitches that make up the V. Alright, so now that I've created 1 stitch and then the chain, to complete the V, I want to create the other double crochet, right? So I'm going to yarn over, and in here, so you have this chain 3 there and then this double crochet. I'm going to go in between the stitches, so right in there. Technically I'm going in the center of the V over that chain 1 there. So split it like that, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And once again we've created our first V of this round, round 2. So chain 2, and then that center chain, and then the double crochet, and that creates the first V. Now we are going to put 2 V-stitches into every V-stitch below because this is an increase round and we want to double the number of stitches, which means that once we're done with this round, we're going to have a total of 28 stitches since we had 14 stitches in the previous round, round 1. So we already said that this was the first V of the previous round, that chain 3 and that double crochet. Or another way of looking at it, the chain 2, then the chain 1, then the double crochet. So we have one V, this is the first V that's in there, but every V below has to get 2 V's. So let's go back in there and create our second V. So yarn over, go into the same chain 1 space and make a double crochet. Now chain 1 and then go back in there to create that other double crochet to complete the second V. Okay, so this V right here has 2 V's. It has this V and then it has this V. Once again, the V's, there is no chain in between them. Okay, the only chain that you will see is the chain that creates the V, that spacing. Okay, so that chain for that one and then that chain for that one. Alright, now that we have 2 V stitches in this one V right here, we can move on to the next V, which is here. Just look for the chain 1 spaces. You might be tempted to go in here, right? But remember, that's not a V. Kind of looks like it, right? But it's not a V because it doesn't have the chain 1 in between those 2 stitches. This is a V, that and that. This is the next V right here, and it has that chain 1 right there. So you know that that's where you're going to insert your crochet hook to create your 2 V stitches that need to go in there. Okay, so once again, we put our 4 stitches or our 2 V's in this V. Then we're going to go from this V to the next V. Don't try to go in there. This is the next V, as is evidenced by that chain 1, and that's where we're going to create our next 2 V's. So double crochet, chain 1, second double crochet to complete the V. Okay, that's 1 V stitch in that V. Now let's make a second V stitch in that same V. Chain 1, go back into the same chain 1 space, create that second double crochet to create your second V. So V, V. So 2 V stitches in that V stitch. 2 V stitches are in that stitch. So this is that V, and it has 2 V's in it. Let's go to the next V. Where's the next V? It's not this, right? That's not the next V. There's no chain 1 in between those 2 stitches. This is a V stitch, so we have to move over 2 more stitches. So 1, 2, and that's the next V. And then confirmation of the fact that that is the next V is that chain 1 space. So just look for the chain 1s, and that will be exactly where you need to insert your crochet hook. Let's create 2 V stitches into that V. So yarn over, go into the V stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now chain 1, yarn over, go back into that same chain 1 space, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. That's our first V stitch. 1 V stitch in that V stitch. But remember, for this round, round 2, we're putting 2 V stitches into every V stitch. So without chaining 1, because we're just going to the next V stitch, we're starting the next V stitch. We're going to yarn over, go into that same chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now chain 1, yarn over, go back into that same V stitch or chain 1 space, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay? So you can see that each V stitch of the row below has 2 V stitches in it. Or another way of looking at it is each V stitch of the row below has a total of 4 stitches. Okay, so since every V stitch is made up of 2 stitches, technically 3 if you count the chain, but let's just talk about the double crochets. Each V-stitch is made up of 2 double crochets with a chain 1 in between. If you have 2 V-stitches, then that means you have a total of 4 stitches. So every V-stitch below, so here, here, and here, has a total of 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 in that one, and 1, 2, 3, 4 in that one. Okay? So I want you to continue in this manner around, and I'm going to meet you at the end of this round, at the end of round 2. But just to get you started, just to make sure you know exactly where to go, this is the V-stitch that we just got finished working in. So where's the next V-stitch? Well, let's rotate. It's not there, right? It's not there because there is not a chain 1 space in there. This is one edge of this V-stitch, and that is the edge of the next V-stitch. So that's not where you go in. There's no chain 1 space. But if you go over one more, there it is. There's the chain 1, and there's a space. That is therefore where we insert our crochet hook to start our next V-stitch. I'll see you at the end of this round. So this is what we have so far. Okay, we're back around, and we should have a total of 28 stitches. Now it's time to move on to round 3. So to do that, we're going to slip stitch into the 1, 2, 3, third chain up of this chain 3. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, and we're going to work into that chain 1 space. So just go in there in between that chain 3 and the next stitch. Basically, you're going in the center of that first V-stitch. Okay, that's our first V-stitch in that V-stitch. And now we're going to start another V-stitch and go back in there. So we're going to put 2 V-stitches into this V-stitch below. Okay, chain 1 now, and then another double crochet in there to complete that second V-stitch. Yarn over, go in, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so that first V-stitch, which is there, has 2 V-stitches there and there. Now we're going to go to the next V-stitch. Remember, it's not there, it's there. Just look for the chain 1 space, and we're going to only put 1 V-stitch in it. So double crochet, chain 1, and go back in and put that second double crochet to complete the V-stitch. Alright, now we're going to go to the next V-stitch, which is not there, but there where that chain 1 is, and we're going to put 2 V-stitches in there. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet again into the same space. That's the first V-stitch. Let's create a second one. Double crochet, chain 1, go back in there to make a second double crochet. Alright, and now that V-stitch has 2 V-stitches. In the next V-stitch, which is not there, but there, because there's the chain 1, we're going to put 1 V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, second double crochet to complete the V-stitch. Okay, so are you guys noticing a pattern? I hope you are. In the first one, the first V-stitch of the previous round, we put 2 V-stitches. In the second V-stitch, we put 1 V-stitch. In the third V-stitch of the round below, we put 2 V-stitches. In the fourth V-stitch of the previous round, we put 1 V-stitch. So 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, that means this next V-stitch here will get 2 V-stitches. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, that's 1. Go back in there to start and to complete the second one. Chain 1 and double crochet. Okay, so 2 in there. So that means the next V-stitch is only going to get 1 V-stitch. Remember, this is not the V-stitch. That chain 1 will tell you that this is. So yarn over, enter, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, chain 1, yarn over, go to the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay? So you're going to continue alternating between 2 V-stitches and 1 V-stitch until you get all the way back around. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll see you there. So this is what it should look like after round 3. At this point, you should have a total of 42 stitches. Okay, so round 1, remember, I had 14. Then you doubled the number of stitches in round 2, so that gave you a total of 28 stitches for round 2. And now after the increases that we made in round 3, we should have a total of 42 stitches. Okay. Now let's move on to round 4. So we are going to slip stitch into the top chain of that chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So the top chain there, just yarn over and pull all the way through. And we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to, just as before, complete this V-stitch here, this very first one. So remember, the first 2 chains kind of get you to the height of the double crochet, and then that third chain is kind of the, if I turn it like this, it's kind of the chain 1 in between the 2 double crochets of the V-stitch, right? So we're going to complete the V-stitch by making that second double crochet, and we're going to go into this chain 1 space below. Okay, so just go in between this chain 3 and that double crochet. That's the chain 1 space. And now we just completed our first V-stitch. Okay, so now this is not an increase round. So that means that once you're done with round 4, you should have the same number of stitches that you had, or as you had in round 3, which is 42. Because this is not an increase round, that means that we're going to maintain the same number of stitches. So in every V-stitch around, you're only going to put 1 V-stitch. No 2 V-stitches in 1 V-stitch for this round, because it's not an increase round. So what does that mean? Where do you crochet next? You're probably wondering. Well, just like before, this is a V-stitch, that and that. So that's the V-stitch. Where's the next one? It's not that. There's no chain 1 in between there, but there is one, a chain 1 in between there. So that's the next V-stitch. So we put a V-stitch in there by putting a double crochet, chaining 1, and then putting another double crochet like that. So 1 V-stitch in there, we put 1 in there, 1 in there. Now it's time to move on to the next V-stitch, because remember, we only put 1 V-stitch in every V-stitch below. That's not a V-stitch. There's no chain 1 space, but there's a V-stitch and there's the chain 1 space. So 1 V-stitch in there, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay? I cannot emphasize enough, you guys, that there is no chain 1 in between the 2 V-stitches. See, it just goes from that V-stitch to that one. There's no chain 1. The chain 1 spaces only occur in the V-stitch. Okay? It's what creates the V. It's what causes that stitch, that double crochet, to kind of slant that way and that one to slant that way, because you have that extra spacing there. Okay? So just continue putting 1 V-stitch in every V-stitch around, and I will meet you at the end of round 4. Remember, you should have 42 stitches. This is not an increase round, so maintain the same number of stitches as you had in round 3. See you there. As you can see, I am back around. So this is the end of round 4, and now it's time to start round 5. So I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain up, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, and just pull all the way through. So we just completed a non-increase round, and we maintained the same number of stitches, so 42 stitches. But now we are starting round 5, which is an increase round. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put our first double crochet in between this chain 3 and that double crochet there to complete this first V of round 5. Okay, that's the first V. So now we're going to work another V-stitch into this same V-stitch there. So remember, that's a V. So we're going to put another V into that same chain 1 space. So yarn over and just make your double crochet, chain 1, and go back in there and create another double crochet. And my yarn is trying to split. I love this yarn, but it can split sometimes. Alright, so now this V has 2 V's. That's 1, and then that's 2. Also, it has 4 stitches. Technically 6 if you count the chains, but I'm not being technical. Alright, so now we are only going to put 1 V-stitch in the next 6 V-stitches of the round below. Okay, so this was the first V-stitch and we put 2 V-stitches in it. Now for the next V-stitches around, we're only going to put 1 V-stitch. So let's do this. Chain 1, double crochet. That's 1 V-stitch. So that's 1. Go into the next V-stitch, which is there. Chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so that's 2. Next V-stitch is here. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That's the third V-stitch, so 1, 2, 3. Next V-stitch is here. Chain 1, double crochet. That's 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Next V-stitch is here. Chain 1, double crochet. Okay, that's 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have one more. Remember I said in the next 6 V's, only put 1 V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, second double crochet to complete the V-stitch. Okay. And now we've put 1 V-stitch in the next 6 stitches after this one. So we did 2 here to start us off, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now in the next V-stitch we're going to put 2 V-stitches in there again. So chain 1, double crochet. That's 1 V-stitch, but we're putting 2 in here, so we're going to go back in there and create another V-stitch. Chain 1, double crochet. Okay. And now we're going to repeat the pattern. So remember here, starting off this round, we did 2 V-stitches in that 1 V-stitch, and then 1 V-stitch in the next 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're starting the pattern again. 2 V-stitches in this V-stitch, and then we're only going to put 1 V-stitch in the next 6 V-stitches. So after you do that, after you get your 6 V-stitches made in that next stitch, put 2 V-stitches again. Okay, so just continue with this pattern. 2 V-stitches in the first stitch, and then 1 V-stitch in the next stitch, and then 2 V-stitches in the next stitch, and so on. Basically, you're only going to increase 3 times in this round. Okay, so you'll have this increase, and then you'll increase somewhere over here. And then you'll have your 6 V-stitches, but then when it's time to increase, you'll see you're already back at the beginning of the round where that increase is. So you will have increase there, and then somewhere over here. Alright, I will meet you at the end of this round. You should have a total of 48 stitches. Now if you want to know how I know that or how to calculate that, well, think about how many times you increase, right? I just told you that you're going to increase 3 times. 1, 2, right? Because these have 4, and then there, somewhere down here. And with each increase, we did 1 extra V-stitch. Okay, so that's 3 V-stitches. And with each V-stitch, there are 2 stitches, right? So each V-stitch is made up of 2 stitches. So 3 times 2 is 6. In the previous round we had 42 stitches, so if you add those new added 6 stitches for this increase round in round 5, then you get a total of 48 stitches. Alright, there's just a little math for you. I'll see you here. So I'm back around, and as you can see, this is the 6th V-stitch, so let's go back a little bit. Here's the last time I put 2 V-stitches in a stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then in the next V-stitch it would be time to increase and put 2 V-stitches, but I'm at the end. But it works out because that next V-stitch has 2 V-stitches. So as promised, I increased here, that's 1. Here, that's 2. And then there, that's 3. So 1, 2, 3, that's a total of 3 extra V-stitches for round 5, which is a total of 6 more stitches. When you add that to the 42, you have a total of 48 stitches. Alright, so let's finish round 5 by slip stitching into the 1, 2, 3, third chain up, or top chain of that chain 3. Slip stitch means going all the way through like that. And then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put our first V-stitch in this V-stitch. Remember that and that. That makes our first V-stitch of each round. So to complete this V-stitch, let's add that double crochet into that chain 1 space. Okay, so there you have that. That's our first V-stitch. And for round 6 through 12, we're just going to put 1 V-stitch into every stitch around. So it's going to be just like round 4 where we did that, where we were not increasing. So this is no longer an increase round, except this time instead of having, I think it was 42 stitches, we're going to have 48 stitches because remember we increased. Alright, so 1 V-stitch is in there. Let's find the next V-stitch. This is not it. There's no chain 1 space, but there it is. And once again, just to point out, I did not chain 1, right? Remember the chain 1 only happens while you're making the V-stitch. So yarn over, find the next V-stitch, which is here, because there's the chain 1, and put 1 V-stitch in there. Chain 1, second double crochet to complete the V-stitch. Alright, find the next V-stitch. It's not there, it's there. Chain 1, and second stitch to complete the V-stitch. Alrighty, and so on and so forth. This is old news. You guys know how to do this. You're old pros at this. So this is round 6. Remember, rounds 6 through 12, just continue on putting 1 V-stitch in every V-stitch below. Because you're no longer increasing, you will be maintaining 48 stitches, and you're going to notice that your beanie is going to start to curve, which is what you want. Now obviously it depends on the size of the person's head for whom you are making this, but if you don't want yours to be quite as long as I'm making mine, then you don't need to complete all 7 non-increase rows that we're making in round 6 through 12. You could try 5, so maybe round 6 through 10 you will make non-increase rows and stop there. Okay, so if you're only going to go to round 10, then just wait for me there. We have another stitch to add to this before we finish off. Okay, so to recap, just do as many rounds as you need to get it to the length that you want it, so it will fit comfortably on the head of the person for whom you are making this. Alright, I will see you after I completed these 7 rounds of non-increase. So I've completed my several rows, 7 to be exact, of non-increasing V-stitches per round, and now it's time to move on. So you can see, just so you can get your bearings, I did my last V-stitch there, and then I slip stitched into the 3rd chain up. Now I'm going to chain 2. So now we're going to move on to the half double crochet stitch, and we're just going to put 1 in every stitch and space around. Alright, so this right here, that chain 2, will be for that chain 3 there, and we're going to put the next one, the next stitch, the half double crochet, in that space right there. Okay, and that chain 1 space. And by the way, let me slow down. For the half double crochet, for those of you who don't know how to make it, you yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through to the front. So it's just like the double crochet until this point, which you yarn over, and instead of going through 2, you go through all 3 loops. And there's your half double crochet. Okay. Now we are going to, just as I said, work a half double crochet in every stitch and space around. So the next one, this is the next stitch. I could enter there in the top of the stitch, but I think I want to just go in between the stitches, okay, all the way around. So yarn over, go in between the stitch for that one, yarn over, go through all 3. Next is the chain 1 space, yarn over, just go into the chain 1 space, yarn over, go through all 3. The next one, which is technically for this stitch, I'm just going to enter there in between the stitches. Next one, that chain 1 space, so go in there. Next one in between the stitches. Next one in the chain 1 space. Okay, and so on. You'll continue in this fashion all the way around, and I will meet you there. So now I'm back around. As you see, my last half double crochet went into the chain 1 space there, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the top chain, which this time is the second chain up, because remember I only chained 2 for this round. Now if this opening is still too big for your head or for the head of the person that you're making this for, then for this next round you can drop down to single crochets. Okay, so you can abandon the half double crochet and do single crochets. If you decide to do that, then you would chain 1 and then proceed to put 1 single crochet in every stitch, once again working in between the stitches. So just going in there and so on. But I'm going to stick with the half double crochet, so I'm going to chain 2, that's the second one, and then as I just said, I'm going to continue working in between the stitches versus going into the top of the chain like that. I'm just going to work in between them. So this chain 2 counts for that chain 2. For this next stitch, instead of going into the top of it like that, okay, instead, if I can get this back out, I am going to just work in between that chain 2 and that stitch, and that will count as the half double crochet for that stitch. It's a little staggered, but basically that half double crochet is for that one, which means here the next half double crochet going in between the stitches is for that one. Okay, so just continue putting half double crochets around. Once again, if your opening is still too large, then at this point you can drop down to the single crochet. And for those of you who don't know how to make the single crochet, it's very easy. So you don't yarn over before going into the stitch, just go into the stitch and then yarn over. In this case, in between the stitches, yarn over, have 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so this is a single crochet. Enter, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, go through 2. Enter between the stitches, yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, that's a single crochet. You can tell that it's a little bit smaller than the half double crochet, which is here. So yeah, it's up to you, but I'm going to finish my half double crochets around and I will meet you back here. We're now at the last stitch, so I'll make my final half double crochet there, and then this chain 2, I'm going to slip stitch into the top chain, 1, 2, and then just yarn over, pull all the way through. At this point I'll chain 1, I'm going to cut my yarn and fasten off. Now if you've seen any of my other tam or beanie tutorials, you know I like to use this tail as the tag for the hat so that I know the back always very easily. I can easily identify it. And what I will do is insert my crochet hook into the stitch that's close in the area, and then I will pull that through to the back like that. But before pulling this tail all the way through, I yarn over and act like I'm chaining one, and that will create a knot like that. Then I cut this down a bit, and when you do that, it's on the inside and it wants to stay on the inside. It's not tending to go that way. It wants to stay in, and it's short and it just kind of fits. Okay. Now, one more thing we need to worry about. Remember that magic circle at the beginning? We can completely close the circle now that we're done. You see, that's the tail that we started with. So let's open this up. Let's go on the inside here. Here it is. So what you want to do if you did start out with the magic circle is just close it, pull on it like that. Okay. And then we're going to take that darning weaving tapestry needle that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and we are going to feed this yarn through it. And now, once we've gotten this hole closed as tightly as possible, we're just going to go through some of those stitches there. So yeah, just go through like that and pull, and then go on the opposite side of where you just entered and try to go through some stitches. This will just further help to close it up, close up the hole, even though it's pretty much already gone already. And then just go through a few more, go through a couple more times, just pulling it through. I'm going to go one more time just across here, like that. Okay. Now I'm going to just enter the center. Okay. And I'm going to tie a little knot. So see how I'm about to come through like that. Now I'm going to hold this and put my darning weaving tapestry needle through that loop before pulling it all the way out. So just try to get it in there like that. Hold the tail so it doesn't come all the way out, and then pull. And now you can let go. And that creates a little knot there. Now I can cut this down, all the way down if I want, or just there. I'm just going to leave a little bit. And when you open it back up to the outside, you see that the hole is completely gone. Okay? And now you have your men's or woman's crochet beanie with this awesome V-stitch pattern, guys. This is so beautiful. I actually love this. Alright, let's see if I can find the back. Okay, there it is with the tail. Just want to get it centered correctly. And wow, look at that. Isn't that a beaut, as they say? Yeah, I just love the cascading V's that are just kind of coming down. And I love when you look from right to left, it's like this zigzag effect, especially when the yarn is a different color. It like really stands out, that effect. So yeah, this is a very easy men's or woman's beanie tutorial, and it does not take long to make. It works up very fast. Guys, let me know if you have any questions. You know where to ask me in the comments section, and let me know if there are other videos that you want to see, other stitches or patterns that you want to tackle. If you like this video, definitely like it, and if you make this, definitely tag me on Instagram or Facebook, because I would love to see your creations. I just got an Instagram notification from one of you guys yesterday. I think the Instagram name is Altmanden. Sorry, bro, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But he ended up making the mesh crochet head wrap that I made a video for. He made one of his own, and it's really nice. His colorway is really nice. It turned out very well. So he tagged me in a photo of that, and yeah, it's great. So definitely, guys, if you make your own versions of these, definitely let me know. Tag me or message me or something. I definitely want to see them. Okay. Alright, guys, that is it for this video. You know I'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.